victory against LSU. I almost said Florida State gets its biggest victory, biggest victory of the season against LSU. Finally ends what was a 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, a 5-year losing streak to the LSU Tigers. Gets a victory, goes up to 5-5. Now just needs one more victory to go bowl eligible. We'll get into that later. But this game is won by the defense. I know if you go to the stat board and you look at the game recap and it says 350 plus yards, you probably think the defense didn't have a good game. Absolutely not. If you watched it, this defense had I'm not going to say great, but they had a real good game. Tariq Sapp and Caleb Banks, to me, were easily the best football players on either side of the ball for LSU or Florida. They absolutely terrorized this LSU offensive line that had only given up 6 sacks heading into this, 6 quarterback sacks heading into this game. In this game, they gave up 7. They got tore up and shredded by number 94 and 88, Caleb Banks. Other defensive players had a good game too. George Gums also had a good game. Cameron James made some plays in the backfield. Jacrazy Bridges had some big time pass deflections on some third downs. Man, this is Florida finally snaps an 8-game losing streak against AP 25 top 25 ranked teams. I'm looking at on the TV screen right now on college football scoreboard between Kevin Nagandi and Booger McFarland. Big win for Billy Napier. I saw on Ali Peak's Twitter, she thought this was the biggest victory for Billy Napier's tenure. I think she kind of got caught up in the moment here. I would say that in terms of the team that you beat, I think Tennessee was the biggest win, and plus being that it's the Florida-Tennessee rivalry. But I think this was definitely his biggest win of the season by far, and it was certainly his most desperate win of his tenure. Considering the circumstances surrounding it, you get endorsed by Scott Strickland for another season. Then you get blown out by Texas the next week, and then you have DJ Lagway coming back off of injury, who was a one-legged quarterback. He toughed it out. His connection with Elijah Badger is just as strong as ever. LSU, for the most part, dominated the game well, I shouldn't really say dominated. They dominated the time of possession and ball control, but they did not really dominate the game, in my opinion. They were, for the most part, in the middle part of this game, they were moving the ball really well. The LSU defense was, making some plays. I think they were also assisted by Florida's penalties. Florida did not do a good job in the penalty department tonight. I think they had like 8 or 9 penalties, which killed a few of their drives. And they didn't capitalize on certain opportunities when they were afforded them in the first half. The first possession of the game, LSU started off the game with their ball. They get stopped on 4th down. Florida had it on LSU side of midfield, but they had to punt it because they couldn't capitalize. And then eventually a DJ Lagway steps up into the pocket on a one leg, throws the ball to Eli Badger, who gets a touchdown. Elijah Badger, he balled out. These were Caleb Banks, Tariq Sapp, and Elijah Badger were my top 3 players of this football game. Those 3 guys, they dominated their opposition today. It was a very good game. Very great. It was a great game out of special teams. Trey Smack hit a big-time 55-yard field goal and a 49-yard field goal to put Florida up 10-7, and then hit a big 55-yard field goal to put Florida up to tie the game at 13. The punter, Jeremy Crawshaw, I always mess up his name, or Crushaw. He pinned LSU in their own 20 on 4 different occasions. He was accurate in punting the ball down the field with a purpose tonight. Great special teams by both teams, by Florida. LSU had a missed field goal, which came back to later on to bite them because they needed 2 scores at the end of the game. I don't think the run defense for Florida was good today. They got butchered on some big runs a lot, but they did it. But in between the 20s, they kind of was give and take. But when it got to the red zone and it got to keeping LSU out of the end zone, they did everything that they needed to do to help Florida win this game. Like I said before, Tariq Sapp and Caleb Banks were insane. Cameron James and George Gums Jr. Shout out to High Top Sports. He said George Gums Jr. was the unsung hero of this defense, and he has absolutely been that. He's balled out. Just a very good performance by the defense to keep LSU off the scoreboard. They're going to have to get better in between the 20s because they got Ole Miss coming up next week. But, man, this was an absolutely special game for Florida and for the Florida fan base. They finally end the losing streak to LSU. Big win for Billy Napier. And now for Billy Napier, you have 2 games left. You're 5-5. You got Ole Miss next week, and then you got those sorry SOBs up in Tallahassee. Yes, the 1-9 Florida State Seminoles. Oh, even you know what? I'm so glad Florida won this game just to end the losing streak and just to finally have a feel good moment. And next week, I get to watch the game with absolute freedom, because even if Florida loses to Ole Miss, they got Florida State the following week. Florida State's terrible. They lost to Memphis this year. They got butchered by Boston College. They got blown out by SMU. North Carolina tore them to pieces. Notre Dame tore them to pieces. None of those FSU players are going to be hyped up to play this game against Florida, even if it is against a rival, even if it is against some of their Florida, high school teammates in the Sunshine State. And even if it's on the road, what FSU fans going to be hyped up for this game? They have given up on this season like a lot of their football players have given up on this season. I'm very confident. This is probably that FSU game is probably the most confident that I am of Florida winning since Sanford earlier this year. I wasn't even this confident about Mississippi State. But all in all, great victory for the Gators. Billy Napier gets the LSU Tiger off of his back and the Kentucky Wildcat off his back. So, listen, say what I want. I can say what I want about Billy Napier, but he finally ended the losing streaks to Kentucky and LSU, and now he has an opportunity. Now he has a chance to make a bowl game. If I'm Billy Napier, I'm wiping the sweat off my brow. This is awesome. This is a much needed win for the Florida Gator program, and this was a great feel good moment, and for DJ Lagway as well. The fact that DJ Lagway coming off an injury for his team, he didn't play lights out, but he hit the big passes that he needed to, mainly to Eli Badger and Hayden Hansen, who caught a big first down catch to help shorten the clock. And how can I forget Jaden Ball, the running back, the freshman running back, who had an insane game against Kentucky. I think it was like, what was it, like 56 yards? He ran the ball. 56 yards or maybe 60-something yards. I'll have to look it up. But his touchdown, his big run for the touchdown, that was the nail in the coffin. It took the air out of LSU, all out of LSU sidelines, and it just pumped a big juice of excitement and adrenaline into that Florida fan base and the Florida defensive players. Just a great win for Florida. And they're 5-5. Next week they get Ole Miss. And hopefully they can, if they can beat Ole Miss, I'm going to root for them to do so. But even if that's not the case, you still got Florida State in a couple of weeks, and I find it very unlikely you're going to lose that game. But the way you played against LSU, and the way you hung in there with Georgia, and the way you blew out Kentucky, and you dominated UCF and hung in there with Tennessee, I just find it hard to believe Florida's going to lose it. And remember, Florida State ended Florida's bowl game hopes last year. This time, Florida doesn't get the luxury of payback because FSU season is already done, but they can still get the gratification of securing a bowl game on the road at Florida State. So congratulations to the Florida Gator football team. I'm happy for the players. I'm happy for the fans that were there. I'm happy for, even to a certain extent, for Billy Napier. But all in all, I'm not going to rip Billy Napier too much. This is a feel-good win. This is the best win of the season by far. The biggest win that they needed at the right time. Man, Florida finally beats LSU. Go Gators.
What do we got to say about that, Trey Smack?
You like that?